everybody, to the Almost Sideways podcast. We're so glad you are joining us for episode 117. We're recording this on Sunday, March 14th at about 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, because Daylight Savings Time started today. I am your host, Terry Plucknett. With me, as always, are Todd Plucknett and Zach Saltz. We're recording this on Sunday, one day ahead of the release of the Oscar nominations. But since you're probably not going to be able to listen to this until after those, we're not really going to talk about them at all. We listened to our last podcast episode 116, if you want to hear our thoughts on that. But one thing I will say to that is look soon for our Oscar Challenge ballot to be released of your opportunity to try and pick the winners to the Oscars and see if you can be better than us in doing that. All right, so Todd and Zach, you guys are here. Zach, you were gone last week. So how was Northwest Arkansas?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, when you see the 2021 Best Picture winner Minari, it gives you this perception of Arkansas as this flat, very boring place. But in reality, I would rank it as a top 4 underrated state, along with Pennsylvania and Arizona and obviously Kansas. And it was great because, as some of you cineasts know out there, Criterion came out with this big announcement unexpectedly that they were removing some of their Paramount titles from their circulation. And so I frantically contacted my local, Barnes & Noble around this area in the Kansas City area. Obviously everything sold out, but not in Arkansas. So I was able, thank God for the rednecks who don't follow Criterion. They probably don't know what a Criterion is. But I was able to pick up some selections here. Rosemary's Baby on Blu-ray. Don't Look Now, Nicolas Rogue. I've actually never seen this movie. It's a little sad that I will probably never take it out of the case, but so be it. And Harold and Maude, which I've always kind of found to be an overrated movie anyway. The other 3, Nashville and Days of Heaven and La Dolce Vita, I already own. But you know what? Thank God for the Hillbillies. I got these Criterion because I went to Arkansas. So don't bash on Arkansas. I heard the last podcast. It is not next to Nevada, Todd. Give me a break.
No, I said it's like equal distance from Kansas to Arkansas and to Nevada is what I was saying. Like you could have gone to Vegas for about the same.
Listen, typical coastal elitism, flyover territory. Listen, okay, Arkansas is salt of the earth, all right? It's not, Cannon Beach, okay? But it's like pretty awesome. You get to go, see some, Ozark. It's like driving into season 2 of Ozark, okay? You know what? You probably got some poppy fields around there. You got maybe the marina. You got the strip club, the Lickety Splits. Isn't that what it's called in Ozark? I can't remember. Yeah. But it was charming. One of the more underrated places.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed. All right. So let's, Zach, I see you are in a different destination, so I think that affects what you're drinking today.
It does. I've told a funny story off air about why I'm in my classroom today. We'll just leave it at that. It involves a birthday present. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I have to be out of the house for this birthday present. As a result, I'm drinking some Agua Fria. I've never been happier to drink Agua Fria because of my birthday present that I'm getting tomorrow, hopefully. We'll leave it at that.
And you get your Oscar nominations for your birthday, too.
That's true, yeah. And I have to come back to work after spring break, so that sucks. But, there's a payoff.
Todd, what are you drinking?
I have the Hayes Parker Reserve Bourbon. Just solid bourbon.
Nice. Well, I got some Ridgewalker Brewery beer, and this is their Scotch ale called Scotch Waffles. So that's what I got. It's really good. It's really good. Really smooth and rich.
Scotch and waffles sound like a fantastic combination. It sounds like something that should only exist in Vegas, quite honestly.
I agree. All right. Well, make sure that you subscribe, rate, review if you have not done so yet on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora, Spotify. Find us on Twitter, find us on YouTube, find us on Facebook. Check us out all over the place. Let's get into this. We're going to talk about what we've been watching And then we have a review from two of us on a brand new movie that is going to be talked about when the Oscar nominations come out. And then we have a come to the stable review of a movie that is not new from a couple of us. And then we have a pretty awesome deep dive today of a great comedy celebrating 20 years this year. So let's get into this. Zach, what did you watch from Arkansas?
Well, a lot of hillbillies. But when I came back, I was able to watch a movie. It is a new movie released, I think, fairly recently on Amazon Prime. It is called Herself. And it is directed by Felinda Lloyd, who you may know as the director of The Iron Lady and the Mamma Mia movies. I think actually maybe just the first Mamma Mia movie. And it stars, let me look here, nope, not the right actor. There we go, Claire Dunn as Sandra. And she, as the movie opens, we learn that she is a mother of two young daughters, and she is caught in this very abusive relationship. This movie takes place in Ireland, by the way. And as the movie opens, she is fleeing with her daughters from this total jerk, abusive ex-husband. And she has to sort of find a place to stay. She ends up staying at this hotel. She has to kind of barter and kind of work between these multiple jobs. One of the jobs she works is as a house cleaner or caregiver, sort of, to this rich lady. And she starts watching YouTube one day and sees that there's this whole channel about like kind of DIY, build your own houses. And okay, well, things kind of get in place, and she's actually able to convince the old lady, or actually the old lady lets her build her own house on her property. And so the movie's sort of a weird combination of like, I don't know, like gritty kitchen sink realism meets like DIY YouTube videos about people building their own like houses. It's a pretty interesting movie. It's not like the most thought-provoking or complicated movie in the world. You kind of sort of sense where it's going. It's not too emotionally manipulative. It's probably about a 7 on the emotional manipulative scale, but it is entertaining. I really like the lead performance by Claire Dunn as Sandra. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was fine. It was like part of why I wanted to keep watching the movie was to see how the house turned out. I mean, it was pretty cool what they were building. So, when you get a lot of people building a house, it's worth watching. So, solid 3-star movie. I like it. I liked it more than The Iron Lady. That's saying something. No, actually, it's not really saying much.
It's not really saying much,
but it's pretty good.
Good.
Have either of you ever like built anything before? It made me feel, my dad has a saying, these hands were made for writing checks. And that says everything you need to know about my ability to build things. And so I related to this woman in the movie who really hadn't built anything before, but felt a lot of pride of ownership when it was completed.
I understand the sentiment. I'll put it that way. All right. Well, Todd, you're next. Take us into the cager.
Okay, I'm going with the 2018 movie directed by Rob W. King called The Humanity Bureau, which is a Canadian movie, but it's set in the American Midwest sometime in the near future. And it is like global warming has sort of caused the world to become a desert wasteland. And as a way to keep the economy going, the government develops this Humanity Bureau, which tracks and removes inefficient citizens and places them in New Eden away from the rest of society. And Nicolas Cage plays Noah Cross, who's a member of the Bureau, and he gets an appeal from this lady and who's going to be deported to New Eden. And he becomes involved in the case, and then he sort of starts to try to save them as he uncovers a bunch of corruption within the organization. The mother's played by Sarah Lind, and Hugh Dillon is the main villain, and he's awesome. Like I've seen him in a bunch of stuff now, and I wish he would make more movies. Movie kind of reminds me of like a idea-driven indie movie, but since it's got Nick Cage, they're able to like pump a bunch of budget into the visual effects, which are all really bad. Like I have no idea how these movies get made or like who sees them in the theater, but it's not a good use of the budget. There's some really bad cinematography. It kind of looks like The Book of Eli, but it's supposed to be like current-ish. Like I don't know. It's just everything is digitally enhanced to the point that it's kind of distracting. I think Cage knows that the movie sucks, so he's not really trying. But everybody else thinks that they're in like Minority Report or something. They're actually really interesting supporting characters. It goes for a lot of like really intimate scenes with the characters, and like instead of like suspense and action, it's more like character development, which is strange. You get a little bored with it at times because you're kind of confused about how to feel, or like how seriously to actually take the premise. But it does have some really dark themes, and has some disturbing things to say about society. But I'm not really saying it's a good movie. I'm giving it 2 stars, which puts it number 66 on the Cager between Jujitsu and The Frozen Ground, and nothing like either of those movies.
All right. All right. I mean, the title just kind of tells you everything you need to know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
sounds like they were going for the Adjustment Bureau, but without the word adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Similarities between those movies for sure.
Okay. So my Oscar anniversary movie for this week. Let's see. I don't think you guys are going to get it, but we can try. Because it is a foreign film nominee from 10 years ago that none of us have seen before. It was the foreign nominee from Belgium. That's about all I can give you. This is called Rundskop or Bullhead. That's the American version of it.
Oh,
Sounds familiar.
This movie was written and directed by Michael R. Roskam, who American audiences might know a little more for being the director of The Drop with Tom Hardy, which I really enjoyed. So this is a really interesting movie, starring Matthias Schoenaerts in probably his breakout role where everyone started to notice him. And he plays Jackie, and this is kind of surrounding something I didn't even know was a thing, and it's the like criminal underworld of steroid dealings for cows in Belgium. That's like the criminal underworld of this movie. Anyways, Jackie plays a young cattle farmer who is himself roided up on steroids and supplements and everything he can, and he is just gigantic and brooding in this. And there's a reason why that you find out about later, some tragedy that he's had earlier on in life, and they end up getting mixed up in by a series of coincidences in an investigation for a police detective that has been murdered that was investigating the illegal steroid dealings for the local bovine. It is, I don't know what to make of this movie. It is bizarre. You gotta accept the premise that apparently the life of roiding up cattle so that they're better set for the butcher is an actual thing. Like they're talking about it like it's the mafia dealings with this. But with that, it goes in some interesting directions. You see Jackie get kind of obsessed with a girl named Lucia, played by Jean Dandoy. And then one of the coincidences is finding a childhood friend in the midst of all of this, played by Joron Percival, who plays Diederik. I'm giving it 2.5 stars. There is something going on here, and I could see why everybody loved this. As I was watching it, I'm like, this is a total Todd movie, and he definitely needs to watch it because I think he would totally get into this. But the ending doesn't really pay off the way I was hoping it would. And it's just kind of, I didn't know what to do with it. Matthias Schoenaerts is great, and he shows why he's kind of been this underground cult favorite actor for the last 10 years. But it's kind of interesting. The Drop is a much better movie, I'll put it that way. So Rundskop, 2.5 stars.
it's been on my list of movies I need to watch for a long time.
You should check it out. I really think this is a total Todd movie. Like, as I'm watching, like, Todd would totally be all over this. But yeah, there you go. Rundskop.
I feel
Bullhead.
like we need a Nicolas Cage movie about illegal cattle steroid black markets. Why hasn't that been made yet?
It was so bizarre how they were going about this. I'm like, really? Okay, so criminal underworld of steroid dealings to beef up cattle. Got it. Okay. But I mean, it does take some interesting twists and turns. Okay. So that's what we've been watching. Now let's get into our movie reviews. So we had some interesting series of events here to lead us to how we're going to do these next couple things. So coming out fresh this week was The Father. Finally, like the last movie that hadn't gotten a wide release that was up for serious Oscar consideration. Hit movie theaters, select movie theaters on Friday. And we decided, or we thought about it finally, like Friday night, that we should maybe think about going to see this. Well, I couldn't get to the theater, so I'm not going to be reviewing The Father, but Todd and Zach are. And then after that, we'll talk about our Come to the Stable review that Zach will be left out of. So anyways, it is time for The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman, who hopefully, unless something crazy happens, when you hear this, we'll be talking about Oscar-nominated performances by Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. Anyways, Zach, I'm going to toss it to you first. Tell us all about The Father and what you thought.
All right. Well, before I get too much into The Father, I want to mention that this is the first movie I've seen in a theater since March of last year. I have my movie ticket. Maybe I'll frame it someday. I don't know. But it's not a movie that's available streaming. I don't know if either of you guys know what the plan is for that. It doesn't seem like it's being released streaming. So basically, I feel like the studio is basically sacrificing its Oscar visibility right down the toilet with that. I'm not sure why this movie isn't being streamed anywhere. But
yeah, I've heard it's had like zero campaign and just kind of making what it's making off of name notoriety.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate. So the movie theater I went to is the local art house theater in Lawrence, and I was very nervous at first. I double masked it, but pretty quickly when I went into the theater, it looked pretty empty. I'm around a bunch of 16-year-olds all day, so it's not like what I was doing was more risky, I felt like, than what I normally do. But it was a great experience being back at the movies. I feel pretty good 24 hours later. I'm getting my second vaccine later this week. Let's bring back movies, okay? I'm tired of watching movies streaming. It's nice to pause it and get up and go to the bathroom, but honestly, the movie-going experience can never be replicated, and I deeply worry about the future of especially art house theaters because I don't know. It's sad. I guess we'll see what happens. It's hard to imagine a movie like The Father playing in big AMC theaters, although maybe Todd, you saw it there. Anyway, that experience aside, I don't want to get too much into this because Terry hasn't seen it yet. I want Terry to see it. I want him to see it as blind going into it as I was. I did not see the trailer for this movie going in. I did not know very much about it, and I'm glad I didn't know much about it. All I really have to say is it is a absolutely amazing movie from start to finish. Fantastic. I'm glad I saw it in an art house theater. The theater here in Lawrence is like a little ratty. Like the audio is not great quality. The picture's a little weird. It kind of worked perfect for The Father because The Father is all about the Anthony Hopkins character, who is the father, who is gradually losing his mental awareness. He has dementia. He is rapidly declining. And so the movie is really all about being confused, being in this face of delusions, not being sure quite what is real, what isn't. It was kind of a perfect theatrical experience. I don't think it would work as well at home watching it on Netflix. However, I think you could say that almost about any movie too. So it was just a reminder about how immersive the movie theater experience really is. And for a movie like this, it really works well. I thought about movies like A Beautiful Mind and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly in terms of how just immersive everything was. You felt like you were this character going through the ordeals that he was going through. Again, I don't want to say too much about it, but I felt like the director, Florian Zeller, did an amazing job of giving you just enough to sort of understand what was going on, but leaving you enough in the dark to feel that sense of confusion and frustration. It was a beautiful very difficult to conceive of balance. It's hard to believe that this movie was a play. I felt like this is tailor-made for the cinematic medium. And it was an astonishing experience. I'm considering this a 2021 movie. I'm giving it 4 stars. If it was on my list for 2020 movies, it would be in my top 3 of the year.
Yeah, I'm right with you on basically everything you said. I love the movie. I think the play would be pretty amazing to watch, though, because I mean, obviously, the way that's structured and the way it's edited, it fits really well with being a movie. But to watch that on stage would be crazy. And I think Anthony Hopkins, it's one of the best performances I've ever seen. And I don't know. I don't know how else to really describe it other than that. Like, he makes you feel so deeply, like, it is so deeply empathetic, but it's like structured in a way that for me it reminded me of like Mulholland Drive or something. Like, you really get like you'll see a scene and then you'll come back and then you'll see the scene again, but from a different way, and you could just really see how disillusioned everything is. It really is an amazing movie. I'm not really sure why Olivia Colman's going to get nominated for an Oscar. I think Olivia Williams is a standout supporting performance in the movie, but I mean, obviously, all like 7 characters are really, really great, and of course, Hopkins is just unbelievable. I cannot believe he's not winning Best Actor. He is. I mean, it's his best performance I've seen him give.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a 4-star movie. It's my number 2 of 2020. It's it is absolutely special.
So I did see this week that the BAFTAs gave a lot of love to this movie. However, Olivia Colman was not nominated inexplicably for Best Supporting Actress. Can you explain that?
Well, I mean, they snubbed like a whole bunch of British people. It was, I mean, I think Gary Oldman was not nominated as well, and I can't remember what the other ones were. There were like 4 or 5 that were like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Carey Mulligan not nominated.
Oh,
well.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how Olivia Colman, that is, the BAFTAs eat that shit up, and she's beloved. She's the queen. I mean, I can't. I mean, but I don't think, I think Olivia Williams is a standout, though.
Yeah, I mean, the whole cast is a standout. I think it's sort of, I can understand a little bit how the performances in this movie are amazing. I absolutely agree. It's not like, though, there's like, as good as Anthony Hopkins is, what I'm more impressed with is he doesn't have those like screaming to the heavens moments as much. It's a great performance in sort of an unexpected way.
He's super sarcastic. I did not expect him to be anything like the way he was. I expected to be just a really sad, angry old man. But it's completely unexpected, especially for Hopkins.
Well, and I think the performances, at least for me, that I can see them getting lost a little bit in the concept of the movie. I feel like the movie's concept is maybe more important than the sum of the whole of the individual performances, if that makes sense. So I can understand that. However, if Anthony Hopkins hadn't won an Oscar 30 years ago, absolutely he would win for this movie. And because you got to think, like, you know, it's in the similar territory as Julianne Moore and Still Alice. This is a much better movie than Still Alice, but it is a movie about, I think, someone taking a very serious risk with their performance. I mean, if I were Anthony Hopkins, like as old as he is, this movie to me was almost a horror movie. I like, if you were to categorize it as a genre, I wouldn't call it drama. I would call it horror. It was absolutely like terrifying to watch. And I think the terror is, you know, implicit in Anthony Hopkins taking that much of a risk giving this performance. I don't know how to articulate it, but like, it was actually like a really unsettling movie in a lot of ways too. I was not expecting that either. Still Alice wasn't unsettling. It was just like dramatic, but this movie was like really uncomfortable to watch at times.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's super empathetic, and like, you never see it from that perspective, because like Away From Her or other movies that deal with similar subject matter, they're more. Yeah, and they're not like this. Right. More, I guess that's a good comparison as well.
But Amour is a Haneke movie. This is not a Michael Haneke movie. This movie is just, it's hard to categorize. I don't think I've ever seen a movie quite like it. The closest would be The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which was about, you know, something entirely different. And this movie doesn't have like first-person subjectivity in that movie, but it has that same sort of, again, immersiveness that I think is crucial to watching in a movie theater. So, Terry, What's the hang up, man? I mean, it's not like there's a massive disease out there or anything preventing us from going to theaters. Although you've been vaccinated, haven't you? So like, you need to go see this movie. Anyone who's
I did see it
vaccinated
at
out
an
there,
AMC. It's playing at a couple AMCs. I had to drive a bit to get there, but it was. I mean, there were a lot of people there.
oh wow, okay. Well, if you feel comfortable taking the risk, and hopefully you've been vaccinated, everybody should go see this movie. It's an amazing movie. I think the Oscar campaign is suffering. Maybe I'm not sure what the studio did, but like, this is definitely a movie that's getting lost in the shuffle. But hopefully, we'll get remembered as one of 2020 or 2021's great cinematic achievements. Did Terry leave us?
I think he's gone.
He's gone. So now we can spoil the movie. Maybe he thinks he's in a different house, different computer.
When I was watching it, the guy that was 2 seats over, he was eating an ice cream sandwich for the first like 30 minutes of the movie, and then he got up and left. It was weird.
Yeah, there were only 2 other people in the audience when I saw it, and one of the people cried at the end of the movie. They were like in tears, which I can understand. It was a deeply moving experience watching.
Am I good to come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you not hear anything?
No, I unplugged because Zach's like, I don't want him to hear anything.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Well, we didn't
I
go into much detail.
Yeah, we didn't spoil too much of it.
Okay, all right. Well,
we should have spoiled more of it. How about the ending of that movie, Todd?
Did you
see that coming with the cow black market? I cannot believe that Anthony Hopkins was able to get the cow steroids. Those fathers, man.
Honestly, I was sitting here thinking, I'm not here to tell them to stop talking. How long is this conversation going to go on?
Well, we tried to get you back in like maybe 3 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. All right. Well, I'll see that one over the next week, and we'll talk about it again next week. Maybe go into a little more detail after all of us have seen it. Speaking of all of us having seen it, it's time for our Come to the Stable review that we all agreed upon last week. In fact, Zach is the one that decided between 3 different movies. By the way, so Come to the Stable, it's us finding a random older movie that none of us have seen, and we watch it and review it. Named after the first time we did this, the film Come to the Stable, which surprisingly was an amazing movie that was thrice approved.
I don't know if it was amazing. It was good.
Yeah, you gave
it was
pleasantly
surprising.
Pleasantly
surprising, I would say.
Nuns as tennis players.
Yeah, it was one of the
pleasantly surprising.
Yeah, pleasantly surprising. Anyways, so we decided as a group that we were going to do this, and then Zach completely forgot that we were going to do this. So he has not seen our Come to the Stable movies. So next week, I'll talk about The Father. Zach's going to talk about this. We are looking at the 50th anniversary, or 51st, depending on how you want to look at it, of the film Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. We thought it was an interesting title. It sounded like an interesting premise, and Zach's like, hey, there's a criterion for this. And so we decided, hey, then let's watch that one. So Zach, I'm going to kick you out now, and we're going to talk about this. And you can unplug if you want, or you can listen.
Oh, no, I want to listen to this.
Okay, you can listen to it.
Yeah.
But we won't see you, and we won't be able to hear you. So there we go. All right.
Isn't that better that way?
Potentially. Okay, so Zach is gone. All right. So yeah, Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. 50 years ago, it was nominated among the 1971 movies for Best Original Screenplay. And then 51 years ago, it won Best Foreign Film. So this is kind of this weird thing they did in the Oscars back then that they don't do anymore. Anyways, Todd, tell us all about this movie and what you thought.
It is directed by Elio Petri, and it is about this guy named Dottore, who is played by Gian Maria Valente, and he's a chief police inspector. And in the first scene, he murders his mistress while in the middle of making love. Then he sort of tampers with the crime scene and makes himself like a part of the investigation. And then he starts to sort of plant evidence that would implicate him in the murder, almost like testing the competence of the department. Right after he kills the girl, he pours himself a drink, which I thought was just a great way to start this movie. The score is done by Ennio Morricone, and it feels like an instant classic score. It's like a Hitchcockian intensity building theme to the movie, and it plays throughout, and it is just a great piece of music. The movie is sort of a deliberate pace. It feels sort of claustrophobic though, because he's so close to everything. You don't really know exactly what he's after and why no one can really figure it out. Valente also looks like an uncomfortable amount like Zac Efron, but with like a Liev Schreiber comb over. I could not get that out of my head the entire movie. He is Zac Efron pretty. I think the movie, it's kind of an angry movie though. Like it's really critical of like people in power, not just the police who like believe that they actually are above the law. It was supposed to be remade in the 80s by Paul Schrader, which just makes too much sense. I have no idea why that didn't happen. It's an easy movie to watch, and you can see what they're trying to say, but I just wanted more like procedural cop stuff. Like instead it feels a little loose. It plays for like style and sexiness than it does for like real like believability in the story. And maybe that's more of like a preference than a criticism, but I just kept feeling that throughout. I just wanted to watch them investigate more. I don't know. It just wasn't close to what I was expecting from that premise, especially an Italian movie at that. But it is compelling, and the acting is subtle, other than when Valente is doing his like Mussolini channeling at times. I can't say I love the movie's choices overall, but I mean, it definitely is worth a look, and it is sort of an outlier in how it plays with other foreign language film winners at the Oscars. I can't think of a single one that's anything like this. But overall, I'm giving it a solid 3 stars.
So this was the second foreign film I watched this week that I really didn't know what to do with. And right now I have it at 2.5, and I might bump it up to 3. I thought the opening to this was fascinating because the opening gives you everything that you needed from the premise, right? It gives you this like sexy thriller, but giving you that there's some sort of puzzle that's going to be involved in this, and some, this cop is this somewhat criminal mastermind. I mean, this would have been one hell of a short if it had just like stopped when he walked into the police station and just been like that right there is all it needed to be. That was a masterpiece. I was hoping it was going to be a little more of a puzzle though, with the ideas of the premise of him planting evidence to implicate him. It's like, well, why exactly is he doing this? There's got to be something more to this. Is he some sort of criminal mastermind, and in implicating himself, something else is going to be uncovered or something? And I felt like the payoff just didn't really go where you were hoping it would go. Like you were saying, you were hoping for a little bit more cop procedural type stuff. And in hoping for that, you were hoping to see why all of this would have happened instead of the scramble that ends up happening towards the end. Morricone's score, at first it's like, all right, this is really random and cool, and then after a little while it just kind of gets a little annoying at times. Like I was watching it with my wife last night, and she was like, if it does that little boing thing one more time, I'm gonna freak out. but yeah, 2.5 for now. I could be convinced one way or the other, but you saying that you're not thinking it's like some great masterpiece either. I think I might leave it there, unless Zach convinces me otherwise next week. I think that's where I'm gonna be on this. But it was a really, like I said, it was like this super insanely fascinating premise. It just felt like after the premise, it didn't really know what it wanted to do with the rest of the movie. But I could see for the 70s as being a really inventive, creative film.
Yeah, the end scene I think works really well. I mean, and that is sort of like a summation of what we wanted, sort of more from the movie, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Zach's gonna totally give it a Joe-ish, like 4 stars or something.
Probably, yeah. He's gonna explain how it's all an allegory for everything that's happened in the last 50 years, and just like Joe yelling at his guns was the same thing. So, oh hey, Zach's back. Hey, all right. So, anyways, that's Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion.
Yeah, so I did not watch this movie. I was too busy in Arkansas, and I do have to say a couple things. 1970, pretty weak year for foreign films. If you look at some of those other nominees, the only other one that I've heard of, I haven't seen it, is Louis Buñuel's Tristana. The other three I've never heard of before. I have 3 4-star foreign films from that year, none of which were nominated. The Wild Child, which Todd knows I love, Les Cercles Rouges, and El Topo. I don't know why those weren't nominated, but I feel like this might have been the beneficiary of a fairly weak category, and that would reiterate some of the things that you guys were saying.
Well, but then it gets nominated for original screenplay the next year.
Yeah, there's sort of like a justification kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of crazy. And I don't know. Do you guys wish the Oscars could still do this, or are you glad that we only need to see a movie once and then it's over with?
Oh,
I don't have a problem with it.
I hate it. I think that's it's weird. I think it's unfairly puts the foreign film. I mean, how is something that wins one year or is nominated one year going to get the same sort of attention if it's nominated again the next year? Like, wasn't Fanny and Alexander one of them, and some of these other foreign movies in the 60s and 70s? Like, it was a strange loophole that I could never really figure out.
I know, but like you don't have the same eligibility window for foreign films as you do American movies, and so that's why a lot of these foreign movies are only nominated for foreign film, even though it probably was one of the best movies of the year. If it wasn't released wide in theaters the year before, I would like to have seen what The Lives of Others could have done the next year again, like against No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood and stuff like that, because it would have been in the conversation.
You know what I would like to see besides this movie? I would like to see the Barry Fitzgerald rule. You get nominated for Best Actor and Supporting Actor. That's what Anthony Hopkins should have been for Silence of the Lambs. Bam! We solved our fight from 3 weeks ago. Right there.
There we go.
Reinstate Barry Fitzgerald.
All just came full circle. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah. So next week, listen in and you will hear me talk about The Father. You'll hear Zach talk about...
I'm going to defend the dings. I'm looking forward to those.
The boings.
Boings, excuse me.
You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you hear it. All right. But yeah, Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. We've got a 3-star, we got a 2.5, and we'll hear what Zach has for that next week. All right. Time for our deep dive. And our deep dive this week is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Shallow Hal, the Farrelly Brothers comedy starring Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow. This was Todd's choice as a favorite guilty pleasure comedy of his, and so we're going to be talking all things Shallow Hal today. This is I'm gotta admit, this is one of the more interesting choices we've had for this, and so it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So we're going to start with trivia, and I am hosting trivia this time, and since Todd is the only one that hasn't left us yet, Todd is going to go second. Zach is going to go first. So Todd's going to unplug, and he is now off the screen too. Okay. So let's see here. Oh, I gotta get ready here. I gotta get ready to write stuff down. We have 10 questions, and it's worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 points.
Right.
I didn't really know how in depth to go with this one, but we'll see how it goes. All right. First question. Why is Mauricio breaking up with Lindy?
Because her second toe is longer than her first.
That is correct. To what does Hal compare Tony Robbins' hands when he shakes it?
Bananas.
Yep, a bunch of bananas. This one's worth 2 points. Where's Katrina from, and why is she in town? If you need help, Katrina is the first, girl he sees after meeting Tony Robbins.
Oh, she's from Boston.
Beantown.
That really helped, by the way. That was a big clue. Make sure to give it to Todd, too.
I will, too.
I don't remember why she's in town.
Taking care of her sick grandma.
Because she's a fat woman who is a great person. That makes sense.
Taking care of Granny. Yeah. I honestly, I don't think it mentions that her name is Katrina until later on in the film. That's why I was willing to give you that much. Okay. Worth 3 points. What was Rosemary's lunch order?
A shake. Chocolate shake.
Chocolate shake is correct.
Chili cheese fries.
Chili cheese fries is correct.
And then a burger. I don't know. Do you accept that? Double burger, something burger?
I'll give you half. It was a double pizza burger.
Oh, that's right. Okay. That sounds disgusting, by the way.
I feel like pizza is an important part of that statement.
Yeah,
so
that's fair. That sounds gross.
Next question. What is Rosemary eating when he invites her up to his apartment?
Wow, all these questions about Rosemary eating. I wonder what the movie's up to. What is Rosemary? I mean, she eats so much in this movie, so it's a problem to figure out one scene. When she's going up to his, I don't know. She eats the cake, but that's at the office. So
no, this is like on the street outside his building.
I don't remember.
That's a caramel apple.
Ah.
All right. Next question. What phrase releases Hal from the spell?
Shallow Hal needs a gal. Shallow Hal wants a gal.
I guess Shallow Hal wants a gal.
Wants a gal. All right.
I'll probably accept either way. Okay. Next question. What does CC stand for?
Carnivorous. No, it's the disease that he claims he has. A contagious something.
I'll give you half. It's contagious conjunctivitis.
With the stuff on his eyes. Okay,
yep,
I remember that now. Yep.
Next question. What former World Series champ appears in this film?
Wow.
I had a feeling I was going to catch you guys on this one.
I have no idea. I give up. Hopefully not Johnny Damon.
New York Mets pitcher Ron Darling.
Yeah.
He's Handsome Lee Boy.
I did not know that. That's very interesting.
I didn't either, and then I saw him on this. I'm like, that's Ron Darling.
I have some thoughts about Handsome Lee Boy and Handsome what's his name, but we'll get to those later.
I watched too much MLB.
They may be some of the worst performances in the movie. I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, if one's a former baseball player, it kind of makes sense. Next question. If Ralph hurts Rosemary, Hal will be like what to Ralph?
Chicken dinner. I don't know.
A tiger and a deer with the cloven hoof thing.
Okay. It's coming back to me.
And last question. What song starts the opening credits?
No clue.
Love grows where my Rosemary goes.
Well, are you talking about at the end or the beginning?
The closing, what starts the closing credits?
I didn't hear the word closing. I thought you said what starts the opening. What starts
what
the
song
credits?
Starts the closing credits?
Right. I knew that it was that. I thought you were talking about the opening credits.
No.
All right. Well, clarify that it's the closing credits. You didn't say closing credits.
I said closing credits.
No, you didn't. Listeners, go back. He didn't say that. That's okay. That's all right. I don't care.
Whatever.
This was Todd's pick.
All right. Well, you got 7 of the 13.
There's no way I wouldn't have known that, but okay.
Okay. Well, I'll give you half a point. How about that? For freaking out at
it's like Vantage Point. Rewind that.
All right. Okay. Here we go. Now we're in the right order again. All right. So there are 10 questions worth a total of 13 points. And Zach got 7.5. So
okay.
I have a feeling Todd's going to win this. Maybe that second to last question should have been worth multiple points if you could get, I don't know. No. All right. First question. Why is Mauricio breaking up with Lindy?
Because her second toe is longer than her big toe.
That is correct. To what does Hal compare Tony Robbins' hands when he shakes it?
It's like grabbing a bunch of bananas.
Grabbing a bunch of bananas is correct. Where is Katrina from and why is she in town? 2 points.
She's in Boston. She's from Boston and she's taking care of her old sick granny.
Damn.
Correct.
I had to be reminded who Katrina was. I think Todd's going to own this.
Probably. Worth 3 points. What was Rosemary's lunch order?
A triple... No. Double a triple pizza burger, a milkshake, and like chili fries or something.
What kind of milkshake?
Chocolate?
Correct. Okay, you got them all. I think
it was or double.
I think it's double pizza burger.
Okay.
Chili fries, chili cheese fries, and a large chocolate shake. Okay. Next question. What is Rosemary eating when he first invites her up to his apartment?
What is she eating?
What is she eating? Like when they're on the street outside his building, what is she eating when he invites her up?
Well, was it a hot dog?
No, it was a caramel apple.
Caramel apple, yeah, because she throws it in the bushes.
Yep, she does.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What phrase releases Hal from the spell?
Shallow Hal wants a gal.
That is correct.
Just saved your life, buddy.
Next question. What does CC stand for?
Contagious conjunctivitis.
That is correct. What former World Series champ appears in this film? I got him too.
Former World Series champ. Was it like actual? Yeah, like what was it like on TV or something?
No. He has an actual role in the film.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like not playing himself. Former New York Mets pitcher Ron Darling plays Handsome Lee Boy.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I told Zach I watch way too much MLB Network not to recognize his face. Next question. If Ralph hurts Rosemary, Hal will be like what to Ralph?
Like a tiger on a deer with the cloven hoof and the broken leg.
Exactly. And last question. What song starts the closing credits?
Rosemary?
Well, can you give me a little more?
I don't know what the name of the song is. I thought that might be the name.
No, the name of the song is Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes.
Yeah. Or my Rosie. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So with a score of 10 to 7.5, and Zach got an extra half because he was convinced I didn't say closing credits when I announced that.
There's no way I would have missed that song. And by the way, that song is also part of K. Billy's greatest hits of the 70s in Reservoir Dogs. Stephen Wright says it's playing. I don't know if it plays in that movie, but I don't know how you couldn't have gotten that question, Todd. But I didn't get it either.
I think he knew the song. He just didn't know the title.
Yeah, I that's becoming a thing where we ask about individual songs in movies. It's kind of weird.
I thought that one was so distinct because it was an oldie that said Rosemary in the title.
Yeah, that's the only reason I remembered it.
Like the title of the movie or Gwyneth Paltrow's character's name might have been Rosemary just so they could play that song over the credits.
No shit. They also played it in the trailer, and I've had that song now stuck in my head the last 24 hours, which is why it was also annoying that I didn't get it. That is an annoying bubblegum pop catchy song that you cannot get out of your head.
There are a lot of songs like that in this movie, though. It is a great soundtrack, like, and each song defines the scene. It's almost like Tarantino-esque in like how well the soundtrack's put together.
Well,
okay.
I mean, for a comedy, yeah,
it's a very generous comparison, but okay.
For a comedy stuck in the early 2000s, sure. I feel like it definitely has the aesthetic of that late 90s, early 2000s. Anyways, Todd, you're the one that picked this. You won trivia. Tell us all about what Shallow Hal is about.
Shallow Hal is about Hal, who is shallow. He is Jack Black, and he is he's a guy who it only looks for the young hot girls to go out with, and he comes across Tony Robbins and gets stuck in an elevator with him, and he puts some sort of hypnosis on him so that he can now see inner beauty as being external beauty. And so it complicates things when he meets Rosemary, who's this like really large woman that he would have given the time of day to, and they fall in love, and his buddy Mauricio, who is equally shallow, starts to really question things, and it creates sort of a rift between Hal and everybody else because he is now sort of like in a different reality. And it's a movie that I have always really liked. I remember when it came out, I watched it, and then it was one of those movies on cable all the time, and I always caught parts of it. So I've seen this movie a lot, and The only reason it even came into my mind was somebody uploaded a lot of the old like Ebert and Roper top 10 of the year videos on YouTube, and I was watching some of them, and this was Roper's number 10 of 2001, and he pretty much said this isn't as not as good of a movie as like Monsters Ball or anything, but he's putting it at number 10 because it's the best movie in its genre of the year, and he said that he thinks that deserves a spot on his list, which I think is an interesting way to put it, and I wouldn't agree with him on that, but yeah, so it was sort of top of mind. I was like, I've seen that movie a lot, and there's a lot of really fun characters in this, and it'd be a fun deep dive.
All right. Zach, what's your experience with Shallow Hal?
Well, before we get to that, do you know what Roper's top 3 movies of 01 were? They're all kind of related.
Well, I mean, I watched the video. I can't remember right off the top of my head.
I haven't even watched the video. I just know because I remember it so clearly. It was Mulholland Drive, Vanilla Sky, and Memento. He was into mind effing that year, I think just a little bit. It was also Roper's first year on the show, so it was kind of interesting, like microscopically dissecting every stupid thumbs up movie. He also gave thumbs down to Lord of the Rings, which Ebert was astonished by. If you watch it, Ebert wasn't really even a big fan of that movie. Anyway, Shallow Hal. Yes. Okay. So Shallow Hal. We were talking about this, I think, off camera a couple weeks ago. 01 was a seminal year in my life for going to movies. It was my first year in high school. It was the first year that I started really going to movies by myself because I would see movies that no one else wanted to see. This was definitely one of them. I remember liking it quite a bit. I've usually said it's my favorite Farrelly Brothers movie. Didn't hold up for me very much this time. We'll talk about why, but I love Jack Black. And this was the first vehicle for Jack Black. And this paved the way. Orange County also came out in 01. Haven't seen it since 01, but I'd be very interested in watching it again. This paved the way toward classics such as School of Rock and Bernie and all the movies we know and love him for. And he is lovable, and I'm happy he was in this movie. I'm just not happy that the Farrelly brothers are now Oscar winners. So, but we can move on from that. One of them, I guess. But it was an interesting rewatch. I'll put it that way.
Well, this came at a weird time for the Farrelly brothers because this is like in their R-rated phase. Like they did Kingpin. There's Something About Mary, Me, Myself, and Irene, and then they make this like comedy romance with a huge heart, and it's just not anything like anything they ever really did before.
Yeah, I mean, it has less like gross out gags for sure. I think they were trying to go in that direction. I was surprised by how much more dramatic the movie was than I remember it being. There's not a whole lot of like laugh out loud stuff that you would typically associate with the filmmakers of Dumb and Dumber, and There's Something About Mary. But the other thing I remember about this movie too is that it was pretty big news that Gwyneth Paltrow was in it. By this point, Gwyneth Paltrow was doing projects that were all prestige projects. I mean, she was doing Bounce. And let's see, it was post Shakespeare in Love. So she was considered pretty much an A-lister by that point. So the fact that she would be doing a Farrelly Brothers movie with this unknown Jack Black guy was actually pretty big news. And I remember some of the pictures leaked from the set of her in a fat suit. And everyone was like, wow, is this really where her career is going? But, it was a movie that I do remember tended to get mostly good reviews when it came out.
Was this like Jack Black's first like starring role?
Yeah, I mean, Orange County, I think, came out earlier that year, but that was also, he wasn't really the star in that movie. That was more like a Pete Davidson, Big Time Adolescence type role. But
Colin Hanks is definitely the main character in Orange County. But I mean, this is a year after High Fidelity, right? So I mean, he was becoming an actor. And
Tenacious D was pretty big too, and he was certainly a known entity by this point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is one of those just like I always remembered it as one of those just dumb comedies from the early 2000s. And it kind of, you could kind of say, now that I've seen There's Something About Mary, it's kind of There's Something About Mary just minus a lot of the gross out stuff, and so it's PG-13 in the way that it goes about its humor, in the way that it still attempts to have that big heart just through the humor. I think you definitely get a different cachet with throwing a Gwyneth Paltrow and even a Jason Alexander into the mix, with Jack Black, who's now you look at and you just say, wow, Jack Black. I mean, that's the guy, but then he wasn't. So I mean, it's an interesting film for me to be looking back at. I think there's definitely some things in there that feel, and we always talk about kind of what's dated, but I don't think this film gets made as is today. With some of the ways it objectifies different things, even though the whole point is the outer appearance doesn't matter. You can't go as far as they did today.
Yeah, I was hoping we were going to talk about, maybe this will kind of go into our recasting at some point, but like, I think you're absolutely right, Terry. I don't think this movie could be made today. It was interesting watching it again, because what was funny 20 years ago, I don't think is as funny today. I don't know if that's a cultural thing. I don't know if it's a me thing. However, the message in this movie is very earnest, and there aren't a whole lot of movies out there that really try to look at beauty and appearance and shallowness. So I guess I give the movie props in that respect. I guess my biggest issue with this movie is that I didn't find the comic parts very good. I thought the dramatic stuff in this movie worked pretty well. And so I leave the movie on the rewatch thinking this movie shouldn't have had Tony Robbins, and it shouldn't have had this gimmick about the spell, and it should have been a drama. And I think it actually kind of could have worked. And I don't think you would have had to change maybe a whole lot more. But the idea of an average looking guy with a woman who does not meet society's expectations for what a conventionally beautiful woman should look like, that's really interesting stuff that has a lot of resonance in 2021. And I guess I give the Farrelly brothers some props for trying to address it when I think a lot of other movies shy away from it or are excessively shallow in their depictions of it.
Well, they even mentioned the crying game in the movie, so
It's true. It's true. Now, I thought about it in kind of the terms of like, and there's something about Mary. I mean, there's a lot of heart there too, and there's a message in that movie as well. However, you look at like how they handle and treat the Mary's brother's character. That feels very similar to how certain characters are portrayed in Shallow Hal. Of you just can't do that anymore, and it's not really that funny anymore. And it might have been funny 20 years ago. It might have been funny when we were in high school, but it's not something you laugh at anymore. And I think there is a.
Are you talking about like Walt, or what? Like
No, just the way not Walt at all.
You're talking about the Farrelly brothers' treatment of these characters, not so much the characters themselves.
Right, right. I get their treatment of the characters, and
because I think that character that you're talking about from There's Something About Mary is especially problematic.
Yes,
to a degree that I don't think any character in this movie quite reaches.
No. But just the way they treat characters that, as a society, we handle with a little more sensitivity now.
I think go ahead.
And I think I will say though, I think there is a really good version of this that could be made today. It just cannot be told in exactly the same way.
Yeah, and the only
even as a comedy, there's a great version of this that can be made today.
I think the other problem is this movie shouldn't have been about Hal. I mean, as good as Jack Black is, and I love Jack Black. I'm his biggest fan. I think he gave the best performance of the 2010s in Bernie. I mean, maybe not the best, but this movie should have been about Rosemary. Upon rewatching, she's the most interesting character in this movie. The problem that Hal has with his shallowness is not as compelling as Rosemary's issue with self-esteem and self-worth. And yes, I get that it would be harder to make this movie a comedy if you go that direction. However, what you're saying, Terry, that it may still have resonance today in 21, that's the direction I wish that the Farrelly brothers could have taken this movie in. And I think maybe would have made this movie have more of a lasting impact.
Now, I disagree with you there. I think it's a much more interesting movie having Hal still as the main character, but adding in elements of what you just said totally could have fit. Todd's confused.
I'm not sure how you could have ever gotten the movie made if it was Rosemary was the main character.
Well, and you couldn't have had the movie. So like another thing I was thinking about is like, let's say this movie was made without Gwyneth Paltrow. Let's just say that it was made with an actress who was plus sized. And instead of ever seeing Gwyneth Paltrow, we just, have to buy into this delusion that Hal has, right? Well, then this movie isn't a comedy, right? Because the comedy, the biggest comedy beats in this movie, at least conventionally speaking, are when she falls over and the chair collapses, or when she's eating the candy apple and the pizza burger and things like that. And it's funny, the contrast of Gwyneth Paltrow eating that, and I'm sure that's what that's what made the movie greenlit from the studio perspective. But I don't know. It's to me, that's why I think it shouldn't have been a comedy. Like for me, we'll talk about best scene in this movie, but like one of the best scenes for me was the scene with Hal and Rosemary's father talking about how, Rosemary's father doesn't believe that she's capable of having a boyfriend. Like that was a really powerful moment in this kind of otherwise silly movie. Like, and I think that had a lot of potential, resonance with people. I just did, how many times do we need to see Rosemary eating? How many times do we need to see fat women in this movie eating or falling over? Like that is less Fairley Brothers, more, genuine, sincere empathy for people, I guess. I don't know. But you're right. It wouldn't get greenlit that way.
I mean, it is a slapstick comedy in that sense, but it's not. I don't think it's necessarily a full-on comedy. There is a lot of dramatic moments in it, and the ending scenes just show how big of ambition and heart the movie actually has, and I think that actually still works.
I think the best version of this movie isn't done by the Fairleys. It's more like a Judd Apatow project, in how he's able to take topics like this, like he does in 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up, and have the crazy comedic moments, but still have that huge heart. I feel like that in his care, this movie could have been something different.
I mean, I think been a Seth Rogen movie.
I think to some degree there has been versions of that though. Like, I mean, for example, Brittany Runs a Marathon, or I Feel Pretty. I mean, there have been attempts the last few years, some good, some not so good, about depictions of female physical, attractiveness, or what society deems unattractive. But I think, this movie, it tries for something that is overly comic. And so in that sense, it's, I guess, different than the others. But I agree with Todd that it does have some dramatic components, and that I think still makes the movie maybe worth checking out, but also, I don't know, dated in some ways.
And in that sense, it really shows very early on Jack Black's range. I mean, he kind of gets labeled as this crazy funny man, like the new incarnation of John Belushi or something like that. That's not really who he was. I mean, he had a lot of range, and he shows it in this movie.
Well, I disagree with you there, Terry, because one of the things I wrote down is that this movie is like, for Jack Black in this movie is like the 2020 Seattle Seahawks. Okay, let Russ cook. You're not going to let Russ cook. You're going to have him sit in the pocket and just be a pure passer and not exploit teams. Okay, fine. That's the way I feel about Jack Black in this movie. Jack Black reads the script. There's no room for him to improvise in this movie whatsoever. And he is a great improvisational actor. We know this. It felt like Jack Black was being bogged down by the Fairley Brothers in this movie. And when you look at School of Rock, when you look at Bernie, when you look at Tenacious D, when you look at his great performances, let Russ cook. Let Jack Black cook.
But Jack Black's like a rookie in this, though. I mean, he's not necessarily a known entity.
Well,
I mean, this is like, this is like Russ's rookie year.
Alexander riff off each other a lot in this movie. I mean, there is a lot of improv, you can tell.
I don't know. I wanted more of it, is what I would say. I mean, yeah, you're right. I think maybe with some of the scenes with Jason Alexander, there was only one moment in this movie that was pure and unadulterated Jack Black comic genius in this movie. And that was the moment at the end of the movie when he comes into the house and starts making out with the maid. That was a great moment. The only moment of the movie that I laughed out loud at, and that was something that only Jack Black could perfect. That is a Jack Black move right there. Going in the party, going to the maid, Marta, or whatever her name is.
Elga.
That should have been a trivia question. And slopping her with a big one. that was a great moment. Although maybe subliminally, I was thinking about that movie that they watch on The Office in like season 5 with Jack Black and Cloris Leachman. But I don't know.
Oh, good call there. Good call. All right.
Todd doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Well, let's move on. Since we're talking so much about Jack Black, let's move into our first Mount Rushmore, and that is our Mount Rushmore of Jack Black. And I don't think we can say that Shallow Hal is a consensus pick, but do we want to say that there? I don't think we want to say there is one right now, or do we? It's so much better to have that conversation after.
Okay.
Let's do that. All right. So I'm gonna go. I think I know which direction Zach's gonna go, so I'm gonna go to Todd first. And
so many
Todd,
directions.
There are many directions. So Todd, what's your submission to Jack Black's Mount Rushmore?
So I think the role that he is most perfectly fits Jack Black and everything that he does well is Kung Fu Panda. If you're ever going to cast a panda, Jack Black is your number one and only choice. And it's his humor in that really makes those movies. There's 3 of those things, and probably video games and everything. It's because Jack Black's in it. And I think that is like one of the defining roles of his career.
Yeah, I would never pick that. And yet I totally respect it. I absolutely 100% agree with you that I couldn't imagine any other voice in that role. He's perfect in it.
And that, Loki, that's what I was going to say too. I was going to say Kung Fu Panda because I thought we were going to go in a different direction there. Okay. So Todd says Kung Fu Panda. I'll go next and probably go with like all of our potential favorites, and that's School of Rock. I think nothing said. I mean, that wraps Jack Black like into just if you want to know what Jack Black is all about,
that's
you
the
just watch
Belushi
School
role.
of Rock. That is the Belushi role for sure. Yeah, Dewey Finn is just. I mean, that's him at his most manic, but his most clever. Working with the group of kids, and it brings out his musical side too. That's Jack Black at his finest and at his peak, and there's nothing more Jack Black than School of Rock. So that's my pick. So Zach, tell us a little bit more about Bernie.
Well, first of all, I was going to pick the School of Rock if no one picked it. I think that is his greatest performance because it's the most challenging role of any of them, and it's his highest war also. But Bernie's a great performance too because it's a role that incorporates drama and pathos. And also, you look at this guy, Bernie Tita, and you wonder, like, is he all there? We don't really know his motivations. Is he just this guy with a heart of gold who genuinely wants people to like the Shirley MacLaine character? Or is he just a money-grubbing manipulator? And we're never really sure. He always kind of... he leaves us. There's a distance between the viewer and him, and yet at the same time, I really sympathize with him. It's a great performance, and it makes me think that Jack Black could also really do drama if he tried. Now he has done a few quasi-dramatic roles. He was really good in this movie called Jesus' Son. It was one of his smaller roles right before High Fidelity. But I would love to see Jack Black branch out into more dramatic roles because I think he can do virtually anything.
All right, so we've got Kung Fu Panda, we've got School of Rock, we've got Bernie. What's going to be our consensus pick here now?
The other ones I wrote down were Shallow Hal, Be Kind, Rewind, which I think is a really underrated movie, and Margot at the Wedding, which is not a leading role, but that is his best acting.
Yeah, he's good in that. I would have to go with High Fidelity, but it's kind of the same role as School of Rock, so I would understand if we want to take it in a slightly different direction.
It's similar, but he's definitely like it's showing him early on as kind of a supporting character. You could throw High Fidelity and the Cable Guy kind of in that same mix of just supporting character, really interesting guy that you remember from it. Let's see here. What else did I write down?
Tropic Thunder. Is someone going to mention that?
Tropic Thunder. I mean,
it could be his best movie overall.
It could be his best movie, but I don't know. He's kind of distracting in it.
Yeah, it's not his best work.
It's not his best thing. Everyone always craps on King Kong. I don't think he's that bad in King Kong. Again, it's not one of his best. The one thing I wrote down that hasn't been said yet, he's really funny in the Muppets as himself. I don't know. It's just a funny role, and it's kind of goofy and silly, but I'd go High Fidelity over that.
He also punted Baxter in Anchorman.
He did punt Baxter. The bad man punted Baxter.
Hit him in the head with a burrito.
And I think there is something to be said about Jumanji. I mean, that is the the current Brooklyn Nets of who's who of great comic talents. But he holds his own in that movie for sure, and he's hilarious in it. I mean, him as having the brain of a teenage girl. I mean, I would watch that every time. Give me more of that.
All right, so what are we going with here?
I would personally go with High Fidelity. I understand Margot at the Wedding, though, because I need to rewatch that movie, but I remember he was the most impressive in that movie.
Yeah, I would need to rewatch Margot at the Wedding as well. So with knowing that, my vote would probably be High Fidelity as well.
Which didn't even make Todd's list.
I know. I would vote probably Be Kind Rewind.
See, that's another one I need to rewatch. It's been way too long since I've seen that one. I remember I liked it, though.
I remember Mos Def being pretty good in that movie, too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like High Fidelity a lot. I've only seen it once, but it is a supporting part for him, so that's why it wasn't one that I was really going for.
It's a supporting part, but come on. I mean, he's like coming off the bench draining threes. I mean, he's the Robert Horry of that movie. He's the big shot Jack, He is like... every moment that he's on that screen, it radiates him, and it's a really high war performance.
After watching High Fidelity, I mean, he's really basically playing what Lester Bangs is in Almost Famous. Like, after watching that, Philip Seymour Hoffman based his role on
it's the same year.
High Fidelity. Yeah, true, but I feel like they're kind of the same.
I don't know if I can say I can ever think of another character quite like Barry in that movie. I can think of people in real life who are like Barry, but I can't think from the cinematic universe anyone who's quite like that. I mean, listen, when we meet Barry, he's blasting on I'm Walking on Sunshine, and he's making fun of Rob's music choice. And then he makes fun of Rob's girlfriend's mother dying. I mean, he is like all over the place. He's a wild man. And then he actually plays music at the end of the movie. I don't know. I think it's a great performance, but I'll go with whatever.
I mean, we could say that, I guess.
Yeah, let's go with that.
2 out of 3. Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I am going to throw out there, there is a movie that is currently in post-production on his IMDb page that I'm now really looking forward to. That's supposed to come out this year. It's called Apollo 10.5.
It was on my Oscar predictions for next year.
Yeah, written and directed by Richard Linklater, starring Zachary Levi, Jack Black, Glenn Powell, and it's a coming-of-age story set in the suburbs of Houston in the summer of 1969, centered around the historic Apollo 11 moon landing.
Can we just already say this is the Almost Sideways most anticipated movie of 2021?
Seriously,
let's have them put it on the posters, okay? Wow,
Rick,
I'm
Jack
there.
Black, space. I mean,
well, Jesse Plemons in a Scorsese movie is, I mean, that's number one, right?
I think this is number one.
De Niro, DiCaprio, and Jesse Plemons in a Scorsese movie. That's number one, and there's no number two.
I'd rather see Jack Black on his way to the moon in a Rick movie.
As Stefan would say, this film has everything. Yeah. Anyways, all right. So there we go. So our Mount Rushmore is Kung Fu Panda, School of Rock, Bernie, and High Fidelity. All right, now let's talk about our other Mount Rushmore here, and I think this one's going to be interesting. So, Shallow Hal was directed by the Farrelly brothers, and so I thought it'd be fun to look at a Mount Rushmore of the greatest directing pairs of all time. And I think we can give a consensus here. Our consensus pick, Coen Brothers. Can we just do that? Okay, so Coen Brothers is the consensus pick. So now we're each going to submit a pair of directors that direct together as our picks. So
This isn't for like individual movies. This is for like a body of work for two directors together, right?
yes. I mean, it can be for the greatness of one movie, but yeah, that's what we're going with. All right, I'm gonna go first on this one, and this might be a little off the wall, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen.
So you did do that.
What?
They only had one movie, right?
They did three together. They did three together. They did On the Town, It's Always Fair Weather, and Singing in the Rain. But I think, and I'm the only one of the three of us that has seen all three of those, I think. So that's why I'm the one that's picking it. And all three movies are great. Gene Kelly and his ability to direct dance numbers is amazing. And Stanley Donen definitely adds something to that mix too. And a lot of people would say Singing in the Rain is one of the greatest movies of all time. And so you don't get much better than that. I mean, the greatness of Singing in the Rain, but also the other two movies are very, very well done as well. So that's my pick. It's kind of a recent thing of doing the director pairs, and it's usually siblings, which is kind of interesting. So we'll go to Zach next.
Well, I'm not going to go with the pick that you think I'm going to go with. I'm going to make things more interesting and go with the Safdie brothers. I'm going to take Todd's pick. I have to, because I think what the Dardenne brothers do is brilliant and genius, but let's be honest, they're also working in a very realist, naturalistic genre that is sort of fly on the wall to some degree. It's not to take anything away from them, but what the Safdie brothers have done with their filmography is one great movie after another, redefining themselves with different characters, different motivations, different settings, different backdrops, but having a consistency in terms of polish and quality. They're geniuses, and I bow down to the greatness of the cinematic throne that they now currently inhabit. So I listen, I've seen all the Dardenne brothers movies. I love their work, but honestly, at this point, if there's a Dardenne brothers movie out and there's a Safdie brothers movie coming out, I think I picked the Safdie brothers.
We have a vote for the homeless rabbis.
Yeah, I thought for sure Zach was going Dardennes. I thought for sure Terry was going with Lord Miller. But
that'd be a good one too.
Mine is, I think it's obvious, but mine was going to be all along. It's the Duplass brothers, Mark and Jay Duplass. They've made like 6 movies, and unfortunately now they're both like really legitimate actors, so they don't really make movies anymore. I think their last movie was Jeff Who Lives at Home. That was like 8 years ago. But Cyrus and The Puppy Chair and Baghead, like these guys are great indie directors, and they never compromise. They made 2 great TV shows as well together. The Duplass brothers, that was what I was always probably going to go with. But yeah, I mean, the Dardenne brothers being on the list too, still it's weird to leave them off. But yeah,
and Lord Miller is another good pair with the Deadpool movies and the Jump Street movies, and I guess they didn't do Deadpool. No, they didn't do Deadpool.
The Lego movies, right?
Lego movies, yeah. Didn't one of them write the first Deadpool, or was involved in it? And one of them was involved in Spider-Man Spider-Verse movie too. Yeah. The other ones that I had written down Anna Boden, Ryan Fleck. Yeah. That's a pretty good pair too. And the Wachowskis. I mean, the brilliant originality of The Matrix, and they've kept on trying to find that again, and with no success, but The Matrix alone is worth mentioning them.
The other ones I was thinking of were Powell and Pressburger. You know, that was another, obviously a classic one. And the other one I wrote down was Requa and Fakara, who do a lot of like indie movies. I Love You, Philip Morris, Crazy Stupid Love. And they're coming out with the new Harley Quinn and Joker movie. Like they're a really interesting pair, and nobody ever talks about them.
Zach, did you have any others?
Oh, I was just going to say Warren Beatty and Buck Henry. Can we say them? I don't know how many more movies they made. Same with the Hughes brothers. I mean, Menace to Society is a great movie. I don't really know what else they've done, but That was a great combination. And then they never really made a movie. They never really made movies together. But Michael Cimino and Clint Eastwood would have made a great filmmaking duo, because we all know the grandiosity of Cimino, and Eastwood was the only one who told him to shut up and, just go with it so he could make the links by 3 p.m. They were the best hypothetical filmmaking pair.
All right. So our Mount Rushmore.
Greta Gerwig and Joe Swanberg worked together once, and they both ended up making the same kinds of movies on their own later. But I was also thinking about that.
So our Mount Rushmore is the Coen brothers, Gene Kelly, Stanley Donen, the Safdie brothers, and the Duplass brothers. That's a great list. All right. Well, let's recast this thing. And we're only recasting 3 roles because really there's only 3 roles worth mentioning in here. So let's see what we came up with. Starting with Hal, played by Jack Black. Zach, you're first. Who's your Hal?
This was extremely hard to recast. And I definitely had a uniting tie with all the people that I recast and my director. I went with John Legend. I'm just going to leave it there for now.
Okay.
He's not the greatest looking guy in the world. He has talked about women's appearances in his music, and he should act. Jack Black did not have a leading role until this movie. I would like to see John Legend in a leading role.
Not this leading role. I can't think of a worse pick. Like if I really racked my brain, I don't think I could come up with a worse pick than that.
Can I say my other picks? I can understand your reaction to that, but it makes more sense with my other picks.
Well, who's your director? Maybe that'll help it.
My director is Ratman. Director of your number 1 movie of this past year. Okay. We're going for a musical, African American, Shallow Hal, and my Rosemary, since we're already going to do it.
Just go for it.
Is Lizzo. Come on, I would watch that. I know John Legend didn't make sense, but in that context, that is a movie I would watch. Make it musical, make it more diverse casting-wise. Give these people roles in movies and they've never acted before. I would like to see it.
John Legend was in La La Land.
Oh, that's true. Okay, well, he wasn't a leading role, but
you could have gone with like Rada Blank or something like that.
Well, I wanted to go with an actor. I was thinking like Kendrick Lamar, because he's been accused of sexism in some quarters. I don't know. This was a tough movie. You try recasting this movie. Let's see what you come up with.
I have the best picks. There's only one choice. Well, who's your Mauricio while you're at your ridiculous?
Former New York Mets World Series pitcher Ron Darling.
All right. Well, Todd.
Way too old.
Way too old. Todd, who's your Hal?
I mean, there's only one choice. It's Adam Devine, right? I mean,
unfortunately,
yeah.
that was one of the first ones I thought of too. Just run down your whole list since we already did that.
Rosemary is Amanda Seyfried, which is another pretty much an easy choice. And Mauricio, the best choice is Aziz Ansari. I feel like he could have played Hal as well. It's not that difficult of a movie to recast, I don't think. But I mean, those two, I think Devine and Ansari are interchangeable in those two parts. But I mean, either way, that movie's going to be great.
So you're saying that Seyfried dons a fat suit? See, that's what I wanted to get away from in my casting. I think if this movie was to be recast today, I don't think they could get away with a fat suit.
They still do fat suits in movies.
Yeah, but not. I mean, this is a movie that is. Well, I don't know. Okay, whatever. I like Aziz Ansari. That's inspired casting.
All right, so Hal, Adam Devine was like the first one to pop in my head, but I didn't want to go with Adam Devine because, I just didn't want to.
He's a Cornhusker fan though, Terry. Come on,
is he really? Oh man,
yeah, he was born in Omaha.
That should clinch it right there.
So, well, the one I came up with was Beck Bennett from SNL. I think he kind of has a very similar vibe to him.
Yeah, and I think the SNL direction could work for this one. I was trying to think about that too. Beck Bennett actually was one I was not thinking of, but that's not bad if you're going that way.
So the other two I was thinking of in terms of the like career trajectories of the other ones. So my Rosemary, thinking about like Oscar-winning actress, young, that's going to take a random turn that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So I was thinking I went with Jennifer Lawrence, but Emma Stone would also fit into that role a little bit of just young Oscar-winning actress in the recent history that's going to, take this ridiculous comedy.
She
And
did
then
that with Aloha.
yeah, that's why I went with Jennifer Lawrence instead. Yeah. And then my Mauricio. So you've got a comedic actor fresh off of a landmark run in a iconic sitcom on TV. I went with Simon Helberg.
Yeah, it's similar to Ansari.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Oh, true, because he had Parks and Rec.
I like my cast the best. And I think it's because one way to fix this movie in 2021 would be to make it a musical. I think that would bring in more audiences.
So you agree that the music is a very important part of the movie? I said that.
No, I would just like the actors to sing in this movie. I could see this movie being a musical. I think that's what was missing from it. That's what I wanted. I wanted more Jack Black. I wanted more improvisation. I wanted more music. We know Gwyneth Paltrow can sing. She was in that country music movie that Terry watched about a year ago. So, there's musical talent throughout this movie.
All right. Who would Nicolas Cage play?
Obviously, Rosemary's father. I think that's and I think he would really try to go for what Joe Ventrilo was trying to do in this movie, which is the Irish accent, with a lot of makeup.
The answer is Tony Robbins.
That's what I said too.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Come out of him! I could totally see that. I could totally see it. Okay. Let's start rattling through these highest war performance. Todd.
Okay. I mean, it's hard not to say Renee Kirby as Walt, because he actually does have spina bifida and he walks on all fours, which is kind of, and he is awesome in this movie too. I can't imagine them actually trying to recast that with somebody who doesn't have that disability. So I'm gonna go with that, and I'll leave the more obvious ones to you guys.
Dude, that was totally my pick too. Because it was you got to think it was one of those where they were like, hey, we've got this guy. Let's write a role around him, because yeah, that guy is amazing. Like, he is, forget his acting chops. That just the fact that he exists as that is just outstanding and incredible, and the fact that they wrote him into the movie as like the coolest dude in the room is just awesome. So that was my highest war as well.
If I had an ass, I'd wipe it with 20s. That's a great line.
That's a Todd line.
That's such a good line. I don't know. I can't really get. Jack Black definitely has to be on the high war list as well. But that was the first one I thought of. Zach, how about you?
I went with Tony Robbins because I think he was someone in 2001 that people maybe had heard of. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many.
He had a cachet.
Right. I think maybe it's even cheating to say he's the highest war, but who else? That grounds the movie in a certain sort of strange reality, and that it's not a fictional character; it's someone from the real world. So I don't know who else really would fit that. Maybe Dr. Phil in 2001, maybe, but I don't think it works quite as well. And I think he's actually pretty good in the movie in his few scenes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. All right. Worst performance, Zach.
Okay, I'm not sure if I found the actor for this, but I went with Pretty Ralph.
Pretty Boy Ralph.
Pretty Boy Ralph.
It's the same character. It's the same actor, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah. I was trying.
I wasn't sure if it was the same actor or not.
Well, his acting dramatically improved when he wasn't as good looking. So I actually thought they were different actors. So I guess maybe he is a really good actor. It was just he was bad in the performance as Pretty Ralph because he was like, "Yo, Rosemary, let's get." I don't know. It was just it was awkward, and it was like it looked like he was reading off a card or something. I don't know. He was looking like off in the distance. It just didn't look right.
Yeah. Well, and you could lump Ron Darling into that too, but I think he definitely had a voiceover, like he was lip syncing to a voice track on that, so it was the same voice no matter which Lee Boy you were looking at.
Well, and I guess it just brings up the issue too, and maybe this is in flaws. Like, so Hal sees men as attractive or unattractive. Why are these the only two men in the movie who change appearance based on their relative goodness?
Because he hadn't seen them before.
I guess, but that's the only time in the movie that any men change appearance based on their, morality, right? So it's just sort of an inconsistency in the script.
Everyone else he's around, he had already seen before, I think.
But it's about Shallow Hal needing a gal. Tony Robbins doesn't talk about that. He's sees men. I don't know. It's just it was a weird part of the movie.
The children also change.
I guess that's true. Well, I don't know, but it's not a great performance. That's where we started. Although maybe it's a better performance than I give him because I didn't realize he was also Ugly Ralph. Normal-looking Ralph. Let me clarify.
All right, Todd, you go next.
So I went with, what's his name? Sasha Joseph Newlinger, who plays young Hal, who is also the director of one of the best documentaries of 2020 called Rewind.
Oh, wow. Really? That's him? Oh my God!
Yeah. I think they mentioned that in Rewind as well.
Did they?
Yeah,
wow,
but he's a terrible
totally
actor.
See it.
he's a terrible actor, and he just has this like really weird look on his face the entire scene when Bruce McGill is like going off about, you need to find a girl with the great toddies or whatever he says. I don't know. I mean, he's just like, huh? I don't know. It's a bad performance.
Oh my God. I mean, you are just blowing my mind right now, Todd. I did not make that connection at all. And now I can totally see it. I didn't realize that they were that prominent of a family. I thought they were just like normal people in like Philadelphia, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't think that he never became famous. I don't think it was one of his only acting roles. So I don't know. Maybe it's just some random thing he did.
His parents were creative people, though. I remember that. But anyway, that's amazing. That's kind of awesome.
That's kind of like finding out that the twins in 22 Jump Street are the ones that wrote Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. The twins that are across the hall from the guys in the dorm. They're the ones that wrote Judas and the Black Messiah.
Kind of like learning that former World Series New York Mets pitcher Ron Darling is in a Farrelly Brothers movie.
Not playing Ron Darling. I think that's the best part, is that he's not playing himself. He's just playing. It's like, we need a pretty Hawaiian. Go get Ron Darling. All right. Well, I'll throw out two for worst performance. One of them is Nan Martin as Nurse Tanya Peeler in the hospital. She's just
the old lady.
Yeah, the old lady.
That's so weird that her voice even changes when she goes from old to young. Like that, I don't know. That's the one thing I never. Yeah, it's like the only one that didn't have a voiceover for whatever. Yeah, that's a good one.
And the other option I'm gonna throw out there, I didn't really like Jason Alexander in this. I didn't think he fit. I didn't think he worked. I thought it was kind of a lousy performance. So
yeah, I think he's awesome. He's just too old.
I take back my pick, Terry. I agree. I think Jason Alexander doesn't work in this movie at all. Now, what's hard about it is that it's an annoying, unlikable character, but it's also the same character that he played in Pretty Woman, essentially. You're right. I think the comic timing is off. He's not a really likable character. He gets the last moment in this movie, and it's just I don't find him that funny in this movie. It's sort of an extension of George Costanza. It makes me wish that I was watching Seinfeld instead.
Yeah, and I feel like that might be why he was picked. It's like, we need someone that is overly critical about women. Let's get someone from Seinfeld.
I mean, there's some plot lines from Seinfeld episodes in this. I mean, there were several Seinfeld episodes about, like Jerry and George dissecting.
She has man hands.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
She wears the same thing every day, things like that. Yeah, that was basically every Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
The other choice I had was Manon von Gherkin as Lindy, because I think she's out of place. Like, I don't think she belongs in the movie at all. She's like, it's like when Shannon Elizabeth shows up in American Pie. It's like, why? What is this person doing here?
All right. The Amazing Larry Big Tim High Roller Award for the best minor character goes to, I'll go first. I have Lee Boy.
Shocker.
I know. Well, I mean,
we'll blend in.
I blend in. I mean, how awesome would it just be to, like, my job is to sit outside this Peace Corps office and play my ukulele. I mean, that's you gotta love that guy. You gotta love that guy. I think he gets more interesting when he's not seen through the rose-colored glasses. So that's my pick. Zach, how about you?
I will say that when there's that shot of Lee Boy and normal-looking Ralph and Jason Alexander in the Jeep at the end of the movie, I'm thinking this could be a good movie. This could be the TV show right here that I wanted to watch the whole time. But anyway, my big
go on a road trip or something.
Exactly. Yeah, I would actually watch that. So I think that reiterates Terry's point. But I went a little different with this category. I didn't choose a character. I went with a place in this movie that I want to know more about, and that is the Arboretum Fitness for Women. Like, do you guys know that scene? So apparently the scene in the gym where they're both exercising, there's an exterior shot that's about like 1.4 seconds long, and the name of it is the Arboretum Fitness for Women. And I want to know more about that.
And that's where Hal is working out?
Yeah. Like, first of all, why are they at a fitness place for women, a gym for women? And
probably
I didn't realize, I guess, but like, I didn't realize there were gyms for women. I want to know more.
I mean, they're not that blatant about it, but there are gyms called Curves.
But this was a gym. It was named, and it was also named for arboretum, like trees. Is that what we're talking about? Like, for women. It was in the title. I want to know more about this place.
Where is this movie supposed to take place? Like, you would think
I was wondering that too.
It's supposed to be like, I mean, it some things imply New York, but this was shot in Charlotte.
I thought it was Boston, but then that one lady says she's coming from Boston, but like that would make sense why you get the Irish boss, and those exteriors of the city look a lot like Boston.
There were a couple scenes that were shot in, or a couple things.
But then they go to the mountains. I mean, I don't know. It's confusing.
I don't know.
I feel like Hal at one point says Montana. Doesn't he say Montana at one point?
Oh yeah, this movie's definitely a Missoula type movie. I know. Can totally see that.
It makes no sense, but I feel like he says at one point that it's Montana. I could be wrong.
They probably do serve pizza burgers in Montana, though. I can't think of many other places that would.
That has me intrigued. I just want a pizza burger. I just want to know what that is.
I know. I couldn't even picture it. Is it more pizza or is it more burger? I don't know.
It's more pizza because the pizza comes before the burger, right?
They are at a pizza place.
Maybe the buns are pieces of pizza.
It sounds like this should happen, and it probably has happened somewhere. Maybe in Arkansas. Maybe I missed that.
We need to make this happen if it hasn't happened before. Okay, Todd, who do you got?
I went with the Fuel Pizza waiter. Because he has like the best line in the movie, or the best delivery of a line, where he's like, man, what's this shit made out of? And he's just like steel? Yeah. Okay. And that guy, and then like after that, he's like walking away looking at it like, wow, this is amazing. How did this happen? That character is awesome.
I'm looking up what a pizza burger is, but I don't know. It kind of looks like just like mozzarella cheese and pepperoni on top of the hamburger patty. Oh, and Drew Brees just retired. I just got an alert for that. Anyways.
Breaking news. Is Andrew Luck coming back? First Andrew Luck, then Drew Brees. It happens here, folks.
Whenever we record, quarterbacks retire. All right, biggest stickman. Who's the biggest stickman in this movie? Todd, what do you got?
I mean, I went with Pretty Boy Ralph. Not just normal Ralph, but Pretty Boy Ralph is definitely the biggest stick man, because he's got the heart of a saint, and he's got a halo around his head, whatever. And yeah, Pretty Boy Ralph.
Yeah, I said good looking Ralph and Lee Boy, but part of me also wants to say, Ralph, if he could be, I don't know. I don't even know if I don't know. I don't know if he can be, but if he could, he definitely would be.
But you can't get within 5 feet of him without getting flaked on.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Good looking or Pretty Boy Ralph or Lee Boy and Walt. So.
Oh, Walt. You didn't
Oh,
say Walt.
who did I say?
You just said Ralph.
Oh, I didn't mean. I meant Walt. Sorry, Walt.
Well, yeah,
Walt.
Walt's
If he
definitely
could be, if he could be, he would be the biggest Stickman. But I honestly don't know if that's physically possible. All right, Zach.
I went with Tony Robbins because, according to his
Nice.
Wikipedia page, he had 3 children from 2 former marriages. Then he married another woman, impregnated her, and he fathered a girlfriend with a fathered a child with another girlfriend. So that is some solid. It's messy Stickman. That is like Sean Kemp sort of Stickman, but it is Stickman pedigree nonetheless. And there is no one else from this movie that I could possibly choose.
He said he only has been with one woman in the movie.
Right. But see, it blurs the line between real life and fiction. He is Tony Robbins, but in real life, his Stickman. But it's also possible he's just lying in the movie. So,
Whatever happened to Tony Robbins? Like, I remember him being a thing when this came out, and now he's just like is gone.
According to Wikipedia, in 2018, he became a vegan.
Well, now that's important to know. All right, who's the Billy Bats douchebag? Oh, I'm going first. I'll go first. My Billy Bats douchebag is Jill, because she's about as shallow as any of the others. Jill is the neighbor.
Your neighbor,
okay.
Jill. Your neighbor.
But the real answer is probably Mauricio.
Can we talk about Jill for a second, though? Because I had some questions about her. So apparently she is a shallow character because she only is interested in Hal after seeing him with Rosemary. So why doesn't she look?
Because he already has seen her. He would Hal would never act the same way if he had, or if the people that he already knows look different.
You're saying that the potion that Tony Robbins does, it only affects women who he's never seen before?
Yeah, who he's never met.
Who's never met.
And men.
And men, apparently.
Which is why Ralph and Lee Boy work. Yeah.
That is interesting. Okay.
And that's why Jill doesn't change.
That answers a question that I had watching this movie.
That also explains why Mauricio doesn't get more ugly.
Oh, it's not. Well, listen, you can't really go much beyond the bottom of the barrel. With all due respect to Jason Alexander.
I mean, the sod was leaking there for a little bit, but yeah. Anyways, Zach, who do you got?
I went with Will Coogan and Lyndon Byers as Punk 1 and Punk 2. I think they're the ones that go and insult Rosemary in front of Jack Black. They're jerks. I'll take the low-hanging fruit there.
Yeah, what do they say? Like, better hurry, the food might already be gone or something. Yeah, those are definitely douchebags. The one I went with was Kyle Glass as Artie, because he and Jen, they both like beat around the bush without saying that Hal is too ugly to date like an attractive girl.
Oh, but he actually says it.
Yeah, but they beat around the bush for a bit, and then it makes them both really look bad. And I don't know.
These are the coworkers, right?
Yeah.
They were my second biggest douches, not for that reason, but because they seem to be only friends with Hal when he becomes successful, or at least they chastise him when he becomes successful and accuses him of not having sincere interest for Rosemary. And I don't know, it was a douchey accusation.
Assholes, yeah.
Just, what do they say? Like, just break up with her? Like, or we didn't know you were going to do that. Like, I don't know. I guess it's the same thing that Rosemary's father says, but to come at it as his friends, I think is a little douchey.
The nice part about that is it's just great to see the other half of Tenacious D on the screen with him. So
true.
All right. Best scene. What's the best scene in the movie? Zach, you're first.
I guess I would go. I mean, I said earlier that the scene to me that was the most sincere scene was when he goes to Rosemary's family's house and has the conversation with the father, and the father basically reveals that Rosemary's incapable of having love or affection because of the way she looks. That scene belongs in a better movie. But if I'm just saying a more comic scene and I'm just sort of, ranking this movie based on what it is, not what it isn't, I would have to go when Tony Robbins and Jack Black get stuck in the elevator.
All right, Todd.
Yeah, like a couple hours later, he just got his pants off.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. I love that. His pants are off.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I love the last scene where we're at the party. I think that is like a really sort of like really kind of like a tearjerker moment, like really corny tearjerker moment. But what I'm gonna go with is when Tony Robbins and Mauricio are talking outside the building, because that is where Jason Alexander shines in this. He's in the middle of a sentence, he's like, Jesus, you got a really big noggin, and then he's like, I have a chapter in my new book about blurting. You should buy it. And he's like, yeah, I'll probably look into that. And then they just keep on the conversation. Like that's the kind of thing is why Jason Alexander's in the movie, and I love that scene. It's a really important scene, and I like that one.
I'm gonna go with the opening scene because honestly, I think it's just hilarious that the father's final words to his son are that. And two, honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen that scene before I just watched the movie. Like I've always just kind of felt like I catch this movie like a little bit into it, and now knowing that that's the first scene, I honestly don't know if I've ever seen this movie all the way through before I just watched it a couple days ago. So
I did not know it was Bruce McGill until this time watching it, and I did not remember
or Molly
at all
Shannon.
that he was or I didn't remember that he was a reverend.
Yeah.
That makes it even better.
Yeah. Okay. Flaws and conspiracy theories. Do any of you have any that you would like to share?
Yeah, I have some. So Hal has a cell phone, right? He answers his phone a couple of times, but when he calls Rosemary, after he passes her in the hallway of that restaurant, he gets onto a payphone and calls her. And they do that because if she had seen that he was calling on her because she has a cell phone, like, why is he using a payphone? He's using a payphone so that she would answer the phone. I don't understand that.
Probably because minutes on a payphone were cheaper than minutes on a cell phone at that point.
But he had a cell phone and he was using it. He used it sparingly, but still, I mean, that doesn't add up. Maybe that just doesn't age well or something. I also think that they really exaggerate Rosemary's weight. Like, she weighs what, like maybe 4 bills? Like, there's like, she's not breaking chairs, and the boat thing is just silly. That she would be completely almost tipping a boat forward. Because Jack Black is not skinny either. He's over 200 pounds. I mean, it's not that. I mean, it's not that absurd. I also want to know, under what circumstances can you barbecue at a community pool? Because that guy is just like roasting some chicken like right next to a community pool. That cannot be allowed. I've never seen that before. And I also just want to know why Sandler never worked with the Farrelly brothers, because this is exactly the kind of movie he was making at the time. Like, Big Daddy is a similar movie in like tone and like with like a big heart and stuff like that. Like, I think that would have been a really interesting.
Like 50 First Dates or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a pair that should have happened at some point, but maybe Sandler wants more part of the writing part than the Farrelly brothers were given. But I don't know. That was just a thought.
It's a good thought. Zach, did you have anything?
Yeah, I had a few. So apparently Rosemary and Walt know each other, but Hal doesn't know that they know each other. And yet he doesn't think to describe Walt to her that would make it very clear that they're bringing Walt with them. Do you guys know the scene I'm talking about? Like, what's he gonna? I mean, I don't know. Like, didn't he think to say Walt has spina bifida? He walks on all fours, and he can't he can't put $20 bills up his ass. Like, I don't know. It just seemed it seemed ridiculous that he didn't describe Walt in a way that would let Rosemary know that, hey, it's Walt, if they know each other.
Okay.
I want to know about this Beatles reunion show with Eric Clapton playing in for John.
Yeah.
Only 70 people there. I just want to know more about it. One of the top 10 most annoying things in movies is when they show a scene from inside a character's car and the headrests are missing, because usually that it's easier for a camera to be set up if the headrests are gone. And that was the exact way it was in Hal's Jeep. I always get annoyed by that in movies and TV shows when the headrests are removed. I think I have a conspiracy theory that Mr. Shanahan, Rosemary's father, is actually the same character as the pirate boss on the 7.5 floor in Being John Malkovich, who builds the tower. I'll build a tower for ye. Yeah, short one or whatever. Yeah, they're the same character. And then I guess my biggest, it's not a flaw or anything else. I think it's actually more of a compliment to the movie, exercising restraint. I don't know how the song Fat Bottom Girls wasn't in this movie. And it goes back to the soundtrack. It's why I can't totally embrace Todd's theory that this is the greatest comic soundtrack of the 21st century. But you're not going to have Fat Bottom Girls in there. Now, originally I said, where's that Mika song, Big Girls Are Beautiful? But that apparently didn't come out until after this movie. But I'm just saying, you know, if this movie is going for all the greatest hits, then you need Queen in there.
Agreed.
I have one more thing I wanted.
While we're at it, Big Bottom by Spinal Tap. Sorry, go ahead, Todd.
I mean, it's not related to that, but so he tells Mauricio that Rosemary teaches self-esteem to sick kids, and so he goes and meets them at the hospital, and he's like, "There's nothing I can catch from these kids, right?" He's in the burn unit. How does he not realize that? There's a giant sign right when he goes in that this is the burn unit. How does he not know that, like, these aren't actually sick kids?
He just ignores the sign. Yeah, he must. He
ignores everything. So I mean, I don't know. That's weird. That's weird how they put that together.
I had something, and I was going off of something that Todd said, and I completely forgot what it was. So we're just going to move on. And if I think of it, we'll come back to it. LVP, MVP. I'm going to go first. My LVP is Tails, because that's like the stupidest random comedy trope that they try to pull off in this movie. And that was just horrible. So that's my LVP. My MVP is Gwyneth Paltrow, because we already talked about how she had some definite cred, some cachet that went along with her that gave this film some credibility that it normally wouldn't have had. I mean, it was only 3 years before this that she won the Oscar for Best Actress. So the fact that she was in it definitely made it bigger than it probably should have been. So that's my MVP.
Yeah, definitely a better actress in the movie, probably deserved.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Zach, LVP, MVP.
All right, well, my MVP of the movie is also Gwyneth Paltrow for some of the same reasons we've talked about. But I actually legitimately, in spite of my criticisms of this movie, think she is great in it. It might be her best performance. I don't know. But it's hard for me to have some of the criticisms of this movie that I have, knowing how good she is in this movie, particularly with her facial expressions and her reactions to Jack Black's compliments of her early in the movie. I felt like those were real, sincere, genuine moments, and I think she was really impressive at conveying that. So I think she is the only thing that sustains this movie 20 years later. I think everything else I could do away with, but she's really good in this movie. And that, you know, goes along saying the LVPs are the Farrelly brothers. I mean, I think that this is not they are not the directors for this material. I think that, you know, Apatow is an interesting direction. But honestly, I wish this movie had been more serious, and I wish that they hadn't gone for the Farrelly brothers type of humor. Let's get away from that. Let's make something that's more sincere, more real, and less exaggerated, like the scene you just talked about, Todd, with the boat. It's the same with the Jeep at the end of the movie. Like, come on, how many of those stupid jokes do we need? We get the message, and that's the Farrelly brothers. That was their problem with Green Book: lack of empathy, lack of talking to other people outside their realm. My guess is that the amount of plus-sized women that the Farrelly brothers talked to in the creation of this movie is probably zero. So I don't know. I wish they were more empathic as filmmakers. Be more like the Dardenne brothers, not the Farrelly brothers.
Well, they had a co-writer on this movie who never worked again. So I mean, maybe that was the idea. The whole idea was his idea or something. I don't know.
All right.
But LVP Mauricio, because he really screws everything up. And the MVP, I'll just say Jack Black, because it's Jack Black's movie, and it works because Jack Black is in the lead.
That's a good point, too. All right, let's wrap this up. Quote of the day time. And Zach, you're first.
All right, my quote of the day comes from dialogue from this movie, Shallow Hal. I think this might actually be the worst dialogue I've heard in any movie of the 2000s. It's when Tony Robbins is talking to Mauricio, and Tony Robbins says, "Did you ever hear the expression, beauty is in the eye of the beholder?" And Mauricio says, "Have you ever heard the song, Who Let the Dogs Out?" Which has a sort of beauty to it in terms of writing and how horrible that line is, that only could come out in a 2001 movie. It takes me back to my childhood.
Yes, if we want to
Terrible
talk about
dialogue.
what's dated about this movie, that's a perfect example.
Can you think of a
Again.
worse line in a movie in the last 20 years?
No, not really. Not really. Oh, wait, no, I just thought of one. It's the final line from Doubt. That might be a worse line. I have doubts. That's the last line of Doubt. That's a bad line, too.
Or something from Notes on a Scandal.
Or anything from Notes on a Scandal.
But none of those invoke the Baja Men. So.
The Baja Men. All right. Todd, what do you got?
Mine also comes from this movie. It's just a passing line, but it's really funny, I think. She says, "We work at a foundation fighting blindness." And he says, "Oh, cool. I used to know a deaf guy." As a, like, yeah. That is Hal to a T.
That's a really funny line.
I used to know a deaf guy.
All right, so my line comes from Shallow Hal, and it's from Mauricio. And I feel like it's just good. It's just a good tip to know. He says, "You can't come back with a comeback after 8 seconds. You got 3 seconds, 5 tops. It's called a quip, not a slow." So that's just good to know. That's just yeah.
Yeah,
that
that is a pretty good sequence. That was one of my favorite scenes too, actually. That whole scene.
But that was a Seinfeld episode, with George and the comeback. The ocean called, they're running out of you. Now the jerk store called, and they're running out of you. That should have been my line.
There you go.
Better than the Baja Men.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we're going to bring this podcast to a close. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, make sure you subscribe, rate, review. We'll be back at you soon with another episode. Be watching for our Oscar challenge once the nominations are released. Until we come at you again, have fun watching movies, and we'll catch you on the flip side.